I'd like to welcome everyone to our session today, Data for Persuasion, which is a guide for how to become a data-led organization using Domo. I am Jake Collins. I'm the Director of Market Intelligence at UPMC. UPMC is a healthcare organization with both a provider arm and an insurance division. We are $23 billion, 92,000 employees, of which 5,000 are physicians, and 40 hospitals. As the Director of Market Intelligence, my role is to ensure that all of our marketing campaigns are data-driven and that we are using that data to help adjudicate the success of our marketing campaigns and thus the dollars that we spend on marketing.
Hi, my name is April Weitzel and I'm in the Marketing Intelligence Department at UPMC. My role is Senior Manager of Digital Analytics, and what that means is I'm responsible for visualizing data, paid media data within Domo, so our different departments who are running marketing campaigns can see the performance of their campaigns in real time and make optimizations accordingly. And prior to that, I worked in a performance marketing agency where I had Fortune 500 clients in retail, healthcare, and insurance verticals.
So let us tell you a little bit about what we're going to learn today. The first thing is we're going to teach you how to empower your organization with the data that you already have. We're also going to teach you to support and enable key organizational decision-making processes, align your business intelligence efforts with the needs of those multiple audiences, define and implement an effective business intelligence change management communication strategy, promote data literacy to create both authority and credibility using the one-up methodology, and to transform your work culture from execution-based to strategy-based. And the first section will be fostering data literacy to build credibility. The first thing that we need to understand is how do we define data literacy, right? And here at the Marketing Intelligence team at UPMC, we define data literacy by an individual user's ability to ask the right questions based on data, understand what data is most relevant to their decision-making processes and can be used to influence the business outcomes, to interpret the data and recommend optimizations for their campaigns based on it, to develop and test hypotheses that will impact future business decisions in more of a scientific way, to present data visualizations so that the leaders with whom they are interacting can understand the results of the campaigns, and to use that data to tell a story so that those decision makers can act on those results in a meaningful way for our organization. How do we get users to engage with the data? The first thing that we need to do is to understand what data they use on a regular basis. This will make them most comfortable with the data that we're going to present with them. We need to give them their data faster, remove the report writing bottlenecks that exist, and try to move towards more of a real-time data service organization. We need to aggregate the disparate data that those users access into one dashboard, creating a one-stop shop. People get tired of logging into 5, 6, 7 different places to receive the information that they need to be effective in their jobs. And so creating a one-stop shop is a great way to get users into the tool and accessing their own data. We need to foster a collaborative environment where users feel like their dashboard needs are being met and where they can then use that data to make decisions. You don't want to develop things in a vacuum. You want to work with those end users to make sure that they're really getting access to the data that they need, the data that is relevant, and that it's being served in an easy to understand way that makes it actionable for them. And lastly, in the case where there are better data points that they could be using to make those decisions, we need to, in a non-confrontational way, steer them towards those data points. As an example from our own organization, there are many things that could be considered a marketing conversion. Impressions in some cases where we want to raise awareness, video views in some campaigns, or more directly, the outcome that we're looking for is appointments. Each of those things may be defined as a conversion. The trick is getting that end user to recognize which one is the most relevant and which one we should really be optimizing towards in our own campaigns. How do we foster data literacy once we have our groups engaging with their data? The first thing we need to do is to train those users to understand what they're seeing. They need to understand to a degree how that data is collected and aggregated and classified, but more importantly, they need to understand what it means to them in their decision-making processes. And that brings us to the second point, which is how are they going to use that data to actually drive those decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis? We need to teach them what outcomes matter and how they should be measured. This goes right back to our point about conversions, right? Which of those conversions was the most important? How are we measuring that? And how will we define success? We need to do those first three things in a way that builds that end user's confidence around the data so that they can use it to tell a story to the leadership with which they are engaging. And another thing that we do is we conduct bi-weekly campaign optimization meetings. And those meetings give us an opportunity for people to interact with the dashboards that have been developed with them and have conversations with other strategic partners and internal stakeholders, such as our agencies, our other marketing teams, be they our digital or clinical marketing teams, and then to understand, what is that data telling us and how can we act on it? And with that, we're going to move outside to Domo, where we will show you one of the dashboards that we have built for our clinical marketing team and show you how, we've built some of these data literacy tenets into that particular dashboard. So now that we've talked a little bit about how to foster data literacy, let us show you a concrete example from our own Domo instance. What you're looking at right now is our campaign overview in the service line dashboard. And what this does is allows any of our clinical marketing managers to log in and see the data for any of their campaigns in a way that is both centralized and consistent across campaigns. And what I'll do here is show you a couple of different examples so that you can see that even though these campaigns are very different, the way in which we're talking about and sharing the data is similar. This helps those clinical marketing managers who have a wide variety of data literacy kind of built into their job to feel more confident about what they're looking at because it's always provided in a consistent way. So as you scroll down, what you will see is we've got the objective called out, the target geographies, the consumers that we're aimed at, and what channels we're looking at marketing it to. And then we also have the insights that are provided by our various agencies that all pull into Domo, and a series of delivery metrics, costs, impressions, clicks, the types of things that your average marketer is used to seeing, and some graphical information that shows how those things are changing over time. And as you can see, we talked about all of the different various types of KPIs that there are, whether those be form completements, appointment completements, people who have scheduled an appointment by calling in, and we're able to trend those things over time, as well as the engagement and the interest. So what you're looking at here is a very specific brand campaign that was run, but what you can see is that in addition to that, if we click over to this one, this is a much more targeted campaign that only ran in some very specific areas to a much smaller group of adults. And what you'll see is that even though some of the metrics are different, we've displayed them in the same way, we're counting them in the same way, and we're providing them to those same groups, in a way that's consistent with everything else that they've seen. And what this means is that for audiences who aren't as used to working with data, they get more and more comfortable when they see things come through in the same way, when they see them in the same type of dashboard. And that builds that confidence and that authority for them when they go out and talk to the other audiences who they engage with, the hospital leadership, about what's going on with our marketing campaigns. And so this has been a way that we're really able to drive that consistency and ensure that our end users feel comfortable with what they're seeing inside of Domo.
This section, I'm going to talk about developing dashboards to meet the organizational needs. We have several different types of users of Domo, so we came up with a methodology that we like to refer to as one level up. And what that means is we design the dashboards with the clients in mind in terms of if the clinical marketer is presenting to a doctor or a hospital executive, we design the dashboard so the information is high level enough so they don't get stuck in the weeds with very detailed questions that they aren't able to answer while they're presenting under pressure in that hospital environment or to a very busy surgeon, for example. And then on the other side of that, we have internal subject matter experts, and they are, for example, in our paid media department, there's a lot of experts there with Google AdWords, for example, or Facebook, and we design their dashboards with a lot more data, very detailed data that they can in turn work with our agency partners and really get into the nitty-gritty of optimization of platforms for media buys, for example. And then both groups at UPMC internally, they both collaborate together And the dashboards we use come full circle, if you will, and allow for everyone to understand the data that's presented and then see if the campaigns have room for optimization or the success of the campaigns. With that in mind, we have 3 types of users that I'm going to walk us through. One of our users is the data presenter, which I just mentioned. This person needs to be confident using the dashboard and in understanding what the data means. So typically the dashboard needs around that. We develop macro visualizations showing actionable trending information for quick performance health checks. In an example here, you can see we have a paid search campaign performance showing, and you can see the paid search cost is decreasing while conversions are increasing. So that is, a good indicator of optimizations working. And we can do that by service line. We can do that at the individual campaign level. It's really a matter of how we structure the presentations, the dashboards to be filterable. The next type of user we have is the self-server. And this person needs to go in real time instead of getting the data presented to them. The self-server can be found at all levels of the organization. Their needs are, we do that with a mobile-first approach because oftentimes they'll be on their phones and in a meeting, and they can quickly get the answer with a couple clicks in the Domo mobile app. They can use filters to isolate the data by the hospital, the service line, the geography, and the marketing campaigns. And I just have an example next to this of some of the filters we've constructed to make it very easy to quickly get to the data that the self-server needs. And finally, we have the power user. This person, as I referenced earlier, is a subject matter expert with high command of his or her data and how to use it to impact business outcomes. Needs of this person, they have macro visualizations, but they also have micro visualizations that can go into the most minute piece of data we have. And for example, in this, we have a paid search performance dashboard that we've created that goes down to the keyword level and a keyword type, for example. Okay, so the dashboard we've developed for our paid search power user goes all the way down to the keyword level, and we can do keyword analysis in pretty much real time at the corporate role, for example here. And what the corporate role is for UPMC is we've have a list of KPIs, and we've bucketed them through interest, engagement, and conversion. So we monitor our highest performing keywords in terms of how they've performed on their intent for our conversions that we monitor. Again, cost per acquisition is also high on our monitoring list for the subject matter expert for Google paid search. And we look at the cost per click for that. And we also can look at that, if I scroll down, we can look at it by spend, impressions, and clicks. And we also look at it at the conversion level as well. So this dashboard comes in handy for our paid media group who works closely with our paid media buying agency. So they understand the optimizations that are occurring and the performance that's occurring at the AdWord level, the ad group level, and at the keyword level.
Not everything is about the dashboard in Domo. Some of what matters most is developing the process around how you will visualize your data and interact with the various teams who will present on that data. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that informs data-driven decision. The first thing that we have to do is create an alignment process. You want to create a process that allows you to both manage and govern your self-service data environment, and that process has to be scalable as well as flexible. You've got to ensure that when you're setting goals and objectives, all of the stakeholders at the table are in agreement, not only with what you've selected, but how you're going to measure it, what you're going to benchmark against, what the time horizon for that data collection will look like. And if everyone doesn't share that same worldview, then you're going to get muddled results on the back end, and that's certainly not what you want. And it's important as you're developing these things to check in frequently. At UPMC, we have frequent check-in meetings that allow us to ensure that we're maintaining that alignment, that we're all aimed at the same target objective, and that we're monitoring our results for opportunities to course correct or optimize. And one of the tools that we use, which you'll see on the right-hand side of the slide here, is our campaign measurement planning worksheet. And what that does is identify who the campaign owner is, what the budget is, what the time frame is, and who the audience is. But it also does a great job of walking through what the individual goals are, whether it be to drive appointments or to drive traffic to a website, how we're going to measure that particular metric for success. And then, it gives us something to refer back to when we conduct those check-in meetings to see how we're performing against the goals that we set. This serves as the wireframe that our development team uses to refer back to when they develop the customized campaign dashboards for those end users. In addition to ensuring alignment at the beginning of the campaign, you want to make sure that you carry all of the lessons that you learned during that campaign forward into your next campaign development process. In order to ensure that we do that, we conduct project retrospectives that allow us to look at things that went well, things that went poorly, and to test hypotheses that we may have after a campaign to ensure that we're adequately closing our feedback loops. It also creates opportunities for things to be done differently in new campaigns and builds accountability amongst the group who are not only developing, but using those Domo dashboards. And so as you can see here, we've got kind of a whiteboard format that we've been using as we all meet virtually that allows us to have, call out things that have gone well or poorly, to talk about opportunities. And these are conducted not only with our own internal team, but with all of the stakeholders, including the various agencies, some of the digital experts, and the clinical marketing groups.
As Jake was mentioning, the development process and the process we go through for campaign alignment, we also have an eye for cementing the data-driven culture and managing change within our organization. So user engagement and survey feedback, these are two of the ways we get our culture to change within the organization, to have them adopt Domo and increase usage. So what we've done is we've created a user engagement dashboard to monitor our users by department and job function that we can filter all the way down to the individual user. We also create survey user groups that we do quarterly, and we provide survey feedback as a roadmap to creating dashboard enhancements. And we typically will present that feedback from our surveys to the group as a whole, and we will close the feedback loop and have biannual meetings with all the Domo users to review survey results and to debut Domo enhancements based on the collective feedback. So what this does is it fosters a collaborative environment where everyone feels like they have had a say in the development of the dashboards they're using for their jobs. And now I'll show you how we monitor our user engagement with the dashboard we created using Domo Stats for our internal use as the MI team. So what we do is we monitor logins by month. We look at weekly login trends, and we look at that month over month. And then we also look at the most recent logins by person over the past 5 days, what people have viewed. We see how many people have logged in, most individual logins, and we also look at fewest logins. We use this data to see what we're creating and doing effectively for adoption. And then when we see people who haven't logged in, we can reach out to them as a group and see if there's something we can do. And maybe it's just a simple thing as they aren't having any campaigns running right now. So their need to go in and use data from Domo isn't as great as it was in maybe the last month, for example. And we monitor usage by groups as well, at the department level. And we monitor our vendors as well, because a lot of our vendors are also using our Domo instance for optimization of campaigns, etc. So we look at what the page and card views are over the past 6 months. We notice service line dashboard is where all of our campaign monitoring efforts occur. So typically that is our most popular page. But we also keep an eye on what other pages are being heavily used. And we look at that at the card level as well. And then we go into a lot of data specifics: who's creating cards, who's creating data flows, And then we also, in this monitoring instance, we have our campaign calendar where we can see which campaigns are running currently and who the owner is. And so we use that to look at which campaigns we're going to invite to our bi-weekly meeting that we talk about campaign alignment and optimizations for. What isn't measured can't be optimized is something I always like to say. And so we measure our user engagement of Domo within Domo. So we have an entire dashboard dedicated to monitoring the usage of Domo by department, by individual user, etc. And what that does for us is it allows us to adjust and pivot where we need to in order to increase adoption of Domo, in order to see where there's gaps in data literacy. And then we can conduct more trainings, we can reach out to an individual, we can reach out to a department, and we can offer what we feel might be missing. And also, when we look at this, we can see if there's a need to create a focus group and get some feedback in an environment such as that. And then we use that as part of our roadmap for product enhancements and dashboard enhancements within Domo for our departments at UPMC. So when I first started at UPMC, the organization wasn't data-driven in terms of performance and optimization of dollars spent towards campaigns. And this simply was a function of not having the data in a timely manner. So now with us bringing Domo into the marketing department, we can see performance real time and optimize accordingly. All campaigns, we can now see their performance. Everyone that's running a campaign can see one another's campaigns. So that creates like a collaborative and competitive environment where people are saying, oh, well, what are you doing? We can do something like that as well. So that's what the benefit of Domo has been at UPMC. So we develop supplemental training and documentation to generate excitement within our user groups. What we've done is we've created pro tip documentation for our heavily used dashboards, such as the web analytics dashboard and the campaign monitoring dashboards. And what this allows is it's a quick reference guide with some really quick pro tips just to get right to the data as quickly as possible that's useful for them. We conduct quarterly instructor-led trainings as a beginning course and also as a refresher course. With the organization as large as UPMC, we are constantly getting new users onboarded to Domo, and we just found it works best if we do this quarterly, nonstop, and get them up and running as a small group. And then in some cases, we offer ad hoc training to rapidly increase adoption. If, for example, we get it, for example, we take over a hospital or we merge with another hospital, we bring that entire organization onto Domo at once as quickly as possible. And then finally, we do recorded video training modules that dive deeper into data literacy topics. For example, effective data usage, you can see performance measurement, and also hypothesis validation. So what we're doing is we're feeding data literacy into our campaigns at the beginning, middle, and end, and really having an eye on creating a data-driven culture.
In healthcare, one of the most important things is delivering quality care. And one of the ways in which we do that is by having very open quality committee meetings where you will bring together a multidisciplinary group of people whenever something has gone wrong to talk about what happened. And they do that in a very open way. And while there's accountability, there certainly isn't any punishment if one division or group, has fallen short in some way. And that is something that we wanted to carry over into our data culture, because ultimately it allows you to address the issues that you're seeing by having an open conversation about what has gone on.
And to Jake's point, we bring all the groups together for the greater good of the campaign in this instance. And how we do this is twice monthly, we do a performance optimization meeting where we select a handful of campaigns that are running, and we get the clinical marketers together along with the external partner agencies and as well as marketing intelligence and our digital strategy teams. And we talk about the campaign performance, what is going well, what could be done better. We create some hypothesis. We do some hypothesis validation if we're farther along in the campaign. So we really just have an open discussion, and we find that the groups learn from one another. So, presenting campaign X, campaign Y is getting ideas for what they can do to better enhance the performance of their campaign. In addition to that, we also have weekly office hours for all the Domo users. So they just come in, it's an hour dedicated to users once a week, and they can come in with data literacy questions, they can come in with requests for product enhancements. So it's really an open forum for anything that the user needs.
So thank you for attending this session, and let's walk through what some of the key takeaways were. First, you have to deliver data solutions for every knowledge worker that you have in your organization. You can't build from a one-size-fits-all standpoint. Those business intelligence efforts have to serve the needs of multiple audiences. While you can't build from a one-size-fits-all dashboard perspective, you also have to make sure that what you are serving up answers the questions that the other various groups who are going to interact with that data have. Data literacy is tremendously important. It creates authority and it creates credibility when those different users are out and talking to other people about the data. And that takes time and training and comfort levels. And so that is certainly something that you've got to invest in to build a data-driven organization. And lastly, data transforms your culture from an execution-based one to a strategy-based one. When everyone is looking at the same data and trying to determine what the right path forward is, you're going to get much better results than when you're shooting from the hip. On behalf of myself and April, I would like to thank all of you for watching the session. And we wish all of you luck in your own efforts to transform the way that data is looked at, viewed, and decisions are made in your own organization.